Before we start, this talk show is presented by Big Water Cabins. Visit airbnb.com/h/Big Water Cabins for winter bookings, and for summer, spring, fall bookings, visit airbnb.com/h/Big Water Getaway. Let's get into the show.
If they freed me from this prison, if that railroad train was mine, you can bet I'd move it over a little farther down the line. Far from Folsom Prison, that's where I don't want to stay. And I'd let that lonesome whistle blow my blues.
Give me a little bit.
La 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 loo.
La 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 loo, la 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 loo, la 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 la.
You need more? Okay. Is this better position? We're
No, that's perfect.
all right.
And then I just switched when I release the podcast from Mondays to I'm doing it on Wednesdays now, or Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Because that kid that was here, that is like a producer, a podcast producer,
Yeah.
he was like, I feel like everyone releases on Sundays. Like every new podcast is always released on a Sunday. So I was like, dang, I thought Sundays were like, I was the only one dropping podcasts. But apparently he knows a bunch that drop on Sunday. So I was like, I want to change the
Dude, just human
change
nature.
the day. So now it's Wednesdays, and now we're dominating the hump.
I think that's the best idea because I was literally just talking about how I wish that there was something enjoyable or a day off in the middle of the week that I could look forward to.
There we go.
Right idea.
Now you can look forward to the Bauer Hour.
Yeah.
Midweek, get you through the hump. Dominate the hump.
Oh,
How do we dominate the hump, Tim?
well,
A lot of people struggle to get over the hump.
I have to throw in a dip most of the time. I'm climbing it, but getting over the hump is just about attitude. I think attitude is everything. I wake up most mornings and I gotta get better at this, but the first 15 minutes, my attitude is not very good.
You're not a morning guy.
Oh no, that's the first hump of the day usually.
You like coffee at all?
Love it. Yeah, grew into it a little bit. Used to not.
1 cup a day, 2 cups a day. Do you count?
2 plus sugar and cream.
Oh man,
Yeah, dude, just
That's
counting the calories.
that's gotta get your heart just rocking.
Oh, I need it though, or else I'm just, especially sitting in front of the computer. It's like fucking lullaby music for me.
You get tired. That's surprising because you're such a high energy guy.
I gotta be around the high energy shit,
Yeah.
and that's where I enjoy it the most, I guess. Thrive. I don't know if that's the right word. I don't always, but I am good and bad sometimes. I respond by my environment. I can also, I think, adjust or like take a lead in an environment, but my natural tendency is to adapt and just respond. So, that's why I love being around ball when I'm not working or, trying to work out or whatnot. Like, I have to do it. I get restless. I get tired if I don't, and then I'm a lazy piece of shit. I don't know. But where do we go? So
Well, ball's fun. We play ball together.
that gets me over the hump.
That gets you
Shit
over the
like that.
Shit like that.
We all got stuff that we gotta do, you don't want to, or you're fighting the other demons you're facing, and you gotta go to work still, and you're fighting your own battles, whatever it might be, but you gotta get tough, and then you gotta do things that you love in your heart. That's why I play baseball, I play hockey as much as I can. Those are things that are pure and genuine, and those are my first loves,
Yeah.
You gotta
and
keep
your
going.
job, right? Like you said, you really liked your job.
Well, in the past, I tried to incorporate baseball into my job, and I found...
Right, like you were hanging on.
Yes. Exactly.
So as like a fields crew, right? Like you just wanted to be around baseball because you thought that was like your outlet to happiness.
Exactly. And, I found was when I was working that job around baseball every day that I loved and have my whole life so much, I wasn't enjoying playing baseball with the Angels as much. It was interesting. So I mean, obviously.
Right. It was probably like a daunting task.
Yeah, it was like, fuck, I gotta go play
Baseball
my ball.
all day, and then tonight again, and
Right.
then tomorrow, and
You know, there's some things that you gotta kind of keep as your thing on the side. That's just, you know, I'm a ball player. I work this job. I play ball, you know, and my job don't define me. Playing baseball doesn't define me, but, you know, those are things that I think help kind of keep me down the straight and narrow and give me something to look forward to that's good in this world. That, you know, it's a negative world a lot.
what do you think does define you?
I think what defines you is the effort that you put in every day to try and make that day a little bit better than the last. I used to hold myself to more statistical standards, or like, you know, you got to throw 93 or else you're not good. You know, that's not
You
enough.
got to make 100 sales a day.
Whatever it might
Right.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Comparing yourself.
That's the goal, but I think that the truth is found about yourself, and whether that is, you know, your passion or not, like, you find it in the journey, the hard work, the grind that nobody else sees. You know, it doesn't have to be portrayed to everybody in the world. That's not what it's all about. I think the things that make you tough enough to get over the hump of the world or the day or in your life are those hours that you spend alone, you versus you. You know, I always loved to hit the streets running at night. That was always the toughest thing to me, training-wise. You know, I don't like running much, but on those streets, you're alone, and you run 2 miles away, you got to run 2 miles back, right? And somewhere along the lines, you're going to fight yourself. You're going to want to quit and walk, but, you know, you're going to quit. Did Rocky quit?
Rocky didn't quit, I don't think.
He never fucking quit. He held his ribs and he walked slow. He ran walk, but you know what? It's a stupid example of a movie, but it's the truth about life, you know?
No, that's not a stupid example.
All that matters, I think, is giving your ultimate your best, the best that you got, because tomorrow ain't guaranteed, and you know, we've all witnessed that one way or another in our lives, but, you know, losing a loved one or, you know, just, you know, whatever it may be. So why not go out the best version of yourself that you can, you know?
Right, and get a little bit better every day.
Yeah. I mean,
Be a little bit better every day. Be a little bit nicer every day. Be a little bit more creative every day. Be a little bit more you every single day.
right. And I mean, we all have those things that dissuade us from pursuing that. But, you know, to me, I've learned over time, because I've been so hard on myself in the past for not, you know, accomplishing a concrete goal or something unattainable. Usually I always set my standards a little too high. But, you know, that if you shoot for the moon,
Shoot for the stars, you might hit the moon.
I like the other way. You shoot for the moon, well, then maybe you'll land amongst the stars.
Maybe you'll just keep going.
Yeah. And
I've never heard the other way.
I don't know. No one.
I like how you just threw that curveball out there.
Yeah, that was actually, it's funny. That was the first way that I had ever heard it. And that was what my old man used to say. He had a little different approach to a lot of things sometimes, but those are the, you know, I'm not always good at that, but I think attitude is everything. You know, you need to be able to live with yourself, which I struggle with a lot. You know, I fight my biggest battles against myself. Just, you know, whether it's not living up to your own expectations, whatever they may be or whatnot. You know, we're human. I've learned this more as I've gotten a little older. We all have sins or flaws, you know, that we face, or temptations or failures. But, you know, Jesus Christ fell 3 times. You know, he got up 3 times. Now, if he can do that, then I can probably try and wake up in the morning and not be such a dick. Try as hard as I can at my job and go play as hard as I can for my ball team at night. That's a good day.
Right.
You know, I'm going to say a lot of swear words throughout, probably to myself, but, you know, give everybody else, try and make the world around you better. Like, I love ball because it allows me to outlet some of the, not emotions, but like,
it gets out energy.
yeah.
It's a release of energy. It's you get to try as hard as you can for however long.
And you fight for your team. You got a team of buddies.
Emotions are high and low, and you feel a lot of different things.
It's just like life to me. Like,
Yeah.
think about the success rate. Like, a hitter gets a hit 3 times out of 10. He's a Hall of Famer in his career, arguably. But 7 times he's getting out. Think about all that failure. No, it's like life. You're not always going to hit a home run.
You're going to fail a lot more than
Way
you succeed.
Right, but maybe when the 9th inning comes and it's a tie ball game, because you've learned from losing in that moment a couple times in the past and it hurt, well, you know what? Maybe this time you'll hit the home run and you'll win that game. And I believe in that, and I chase that in life, I guess, in my own pursuits. Not for pride or not for money. That's like, for God, you gave me this life, I'm going to give you my best. And I'm going to fail a lot, but, you know, I think that's the background of it all, to be honest. I mean,
Right.
You know, I don't know if you wanted to get into that right now, but
No, it's good. I mean, we can, it doesn't matter. We can get into whatever, whenever. We're open-minded here at the Bauer Hour. We talk about whatever.
it's so official.
Yeah.
No, no, you know, I don't mean this to be about me talking about me, but I guess a fundamental lesson of my life or learning, I don't know, moment of faith, it's been a story. It's not been one moment reading a book, you know.
You're talking about the story that you were gonna start telling me, and then I was like, wait, I want you to tell me this. We're gonna turn the mics on. Okay. And we led up to this story, right? Before.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how we kind of led up to that, because if we just jump in, people might not understand the context.
Right.
Or they will. I don't exactly know. I don't know the story, so
No, yeah.
I could just be talking.
I mean, they are. I think it's all a little bit related if you can open your eyes. Most of the time, you know, it's easier to see the negative things in your own life and in the world and focus on them, especially with, you know, social media today. Comparisons, you know, it's just, there's a lot of noise and negativity that I've fallen into that I think everyone has at one point or another. But if you can,
yeah, we all do. I mean, you showed up today and you had your "I voted" sticker on right there, right? But that's part of it. I mean, that just breaks us up,
dude.
like just voting, and we make it such a thing where like you have to vote.
Exactly, and I even think about it.
Right. And it's like, that's one thing that just tears us apart as a country, as a society, as everything. And then it's like you get shoved down your throat. You have to vote. You have to vote. You have to vote.
Well,
that's why when voting came along, I was like, I think voting is important if you understand what you're voting for. But I don't think that we need to send people to the booths that don't know.
I agree.
Like if people are just going in there and filling in bubbles, that doesn't do us any good.
That's a great point. You want people.
So, why are we shoving people in the voting booths?
It's a hell of a question. That is a hell of a question. I mean,
it's just choosing people to pick a side, and then it's 50-50. It's a coin flip.
Pick one or the other. Yeah. Is life like that? Life ain't black and white all the time like that.
I don't know. And someone could probably rebuttal that, I'm sure. But, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
No, I think you made a great point. I didn't even never really thought of it that way. And it's true.
And that's all you see on the mainstream media is get out and vote, get out and vote, get out. You have to vote.
Right.
If you don't vote? Like what?
Well, this is
How do you
what
not vote?
I think. I think the general population, you'd hope for this, that people were knowledgeable or up in the times enough about current events going on, and that you could rely on media to be reporting the 100% truth. You know, that would be.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen, right? Like,
it won't, you know.
where you go.
So you're right. They're pushing uneducated choices either way. You know, it's not a Republican or Democrat or libertarian thing.
That's what all the signs are for, because they're hoping that the person who had no idea who they were voting for was driving their way to the voting booth, saw the sign, said, I'll vote for them because they put a sign up.
Visual psychology or something.
Or the sign I saw 2 days ago, or whatever it is. But
you're right.
Just, or the person who called me 2 days ago. Oh, this congressman called me a couple days ago, said hi, I'm going to vote for him because he's the only one that I know, and he called me.
Yeah.
But maybe this guy, like, I don't know, wants to freaking blow up the world.
Yeah, it's a hell of a point. You know, you're 100% right. I mean, yeah, I voted. I got my sticker on. I meant to put it in my car. I always put it in the corner. I like the fact
I don't even take the sticker.
I like the fact that we have the option, the choice, the freedom to vote. But I agree with you. People should not maybe necessarily do it unless you're educated on what you're voting for.
Right. And you don't know.
And does it even matter in the end?
Right. And that's something that we'll never know unless you actually get into politics.
I don't even want to.
And yeah.
I mean, you would.
Yeah, tough. Like why? Do we know why those, like Arizona takes like 3 or 4 days to count their votes? Like that, I feel like that doesn't make any sense with technology that we have.
None of it makes any sense. I don't. Yeah, I always remembered it being like a 1 or maybe 2 day deal when there was that close running between Bush and Gore in 2000 or whatnot. But that was because
I was in like 6. I was 7 in 2000. You were probably what, 9?
I was in, 91, 9.
Oh, 9, yeah. 91.
Well, maybe 8 at that. Yeah, I was 9 September. But I remember that, and I just remember it came down a couple days after, just because it was like literally within one community in Florida or something. I don't know the numbers, but it was like 100,000 votes in Florida that made a difference nationwide. And so it took like a bunch of, are we getting this exactly? I don't know. But
100,000?
Yeah, it was a very, very close run. Like Bush, I think, just barely won. That's why I remembered it taking a few days.
They had to do like a recount.
Yes.
They had to pick up some of the polls again. And
right. Yeah, and now that's why, I don't get it. Now it's all elections take that long almost.
It's so weird. Elections just in general, I think, are odd. But I mean, we need leadership, right? We need correct leadership. But like at the end of the day, who the hell would want that job?
I don't know. People,
like, that's why we can't get any
hungry,
good. That's why we can't get any good presidents, because no one fucking wants to do it.
Right. Well, I mean, you go
who
up.
Would
you
get
try
paid
and
like
destroy you, and you get
You get paid nothing
for the job,
and you just take blame for everything.
Right. I mean, to me, the president is more of a figure almost.
That's exactly what they are.
You know, and that's
a public speaker.
Thought, right. And I mean, you know, they're teleprompting 97% of the time, getting speeches written by other people for them. You know, that's a good point. I don't always think about that myself. But I just think we're supposed to be one nation, you know, under God, indivisible. You know, you're right. You say, why you have to pick a side? We're supposed to be in it together in the end.
And we're not. I feel like you're just always on your toes on.
Dude.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to happen.
Right. You never do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm not totally.
And I don't talk about politics ever on this podcast. I just honestly brought it up because you wore the voted sticker, and I was like, I feel like we could talk about that cordially and like.
For sure. I just think
I don't care who you voted for. I'm not gonna like think less of you because of who you voted for.
Exactly.
We all have different views. That's the beauty of it. We're all unique people, and we all have our opinions, and all of our opinions matter.
100%.
And that's what makes us beautiful. So if someone sees the world in a different way than you, maybe be open to listening to them.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
And maybe their side's not going to make sense, and that's okay. You can disagree.
Right, and still be fine and be friends.
Exactly.
You know, in the end, or cordial at least.
Right, yeah. In the same room, I'm sure we could find some common ground.
Right, why you always have to look for every difference.
Right.
You know, I like going back to ball. That's why I love ball, because you're a team in it. You can't play without one of those guys out there. You take out the right fielder, you can bet your ass you're going to give up 5 hits to right field.
That's exactly where they're hitting the ball, yeah.
You know, a pitcher can't do it alone. No one can. You have individuals coming together. It's like, I don't know. That's how life should be too. You know, working for the win, overcoming. You know, the other team, whatever, they're trying their best too. You know, I don't know. It was a bad fucking reference, kind of. But collectively, you're trying to fucking win together.
So for those who probably don't know Tim that's listening, Tim and I play baseball together in the summers for the Minneapolis Angels. Shout out to all the Angels that are listening. I'm assuming there's a couple.
Love you guys.
And Tim and I always have great conversations on the bench.
Yeah, when I'm riding a pine.
Or when we're both riding a pine or whatever it is.
I'm kidding. Pulling splinters out of my ass.
Oh. But we always engage in good conversation. That's why I wanted to bring you on, because I think you're a cool dude. You got a lot of good stuff to say.
Dude, you're the man.
And I think the world needs to hear your voice.
Well, I appreciate that. And pardon it for being a little fucked up right now. I have had a little bit of a cold I'm coming off of, so stuffed up a little bit. But yeah, and to go back to Mitch, your host here. One of the greatest guys I've ever met in the last 3 years, really. I see him at baseball, majority of it, but you can tell just the way that he treats everybody, the way that he approaches the game, the way he pitches. You know, he's a winner. He goes after it, but he is a teammate. He's always engaging everybody. He's getting everybody involved and into it. And I love that about you. I mean, I'm telling you, that's the God honest truth. He befriended me when I knew nobody, and you were the fucking stud pitcher of the team, same type of deal I mentioned earlier,
Inclusivity, man. Like, we got to include everybody. Well, everybody's involved. I was gonna stop you in the middle of that and say, hey, we don't talk about me on this side.
I know. Well, yeah,
I appreciate that. No, I appreciate the kind words and the hype.
He's a badass and a good man. But anyway, I ramble off, so pardon me. I talk a lot. I think the whole thing, I mean, from my perspective, it's got a basis and a foundation in God. And I ain't saying that you got to believe the exact same way as I do. I'm open to everybody. Everybody's opinions and beliefs are their own, and I just happen to believe very strongly in what I happened to be brought up in, not because of my teachings through that religion, but because of experiences I've lived through in my life. I don't mean to say that I've been through much tougher than anybody else, but I've had some moments that I can't really explain that have shaped everything I do. I guess I'll get to that story. It doesn't really have to lead in with what we were totally discussing earlier, but I can kind of incorporate it. When I was about 5, I remember the first conversation vividly that I had with my father. And we were sitting on the bed, and he was talking about the story of Abraham and Isaac in the Bible, the Old Testament. He told me Abraham loved Isaac more than anything. It was his son. He sent, if you read the Bible, he sent Ishmael, his son, other son away. I don't know. You can look up the story, but Isaac was his son with Sarah's wife. And Abraham is believed to be the father of faith in God. Now, the first story he told me was that Abraham was approached by God in a dream or a vision. And he said, Abraham, I want you to sacrifice your son Isaac to show your faith in me. put him to the toughest test. He loved his baby boy more than anything in this world. And Abraham was obviously distraught. He didn't know what to do. But he decided to follow God's will. And he led Isaac. He told Isaac, we're going up to the mountains and we're going to sacrifice a lamb for God. Not telling Isaac that he was the lamb. So they get to the top of the mount. I think it was Mount Sinai. And there's an altar built. And Abraham ties Isaac to the altar. And Isaac doesn't know what's going on. He's, what are you doing, Daddy? And Abraham stood before him with a knife, tears in his eyes, held a knife over him, and he was going to sacrifice his only son we loved. And as he came down with the knife, an angel appeared before him and said, stop, you've proven your faith in God. The moral of that story, I remember him putting his arm around me and saying, so what does this mean? I didn't have a comprehension of it. I remember the story. I didn't know what he meant by it. He said, who do we love? And I remember saying, well, I love you, I love Mom, and my family, and my friends. And he goes, no. He goes, first, we love God. And then we love Mary, and all the saints in heaven. And then we love our friends. And then we love our family, and then our friends. And it gave me, I remember that moment having a comprehension maybe of, wow, this God guy's pretty important. If he's above those people that I care so much about, innocently as a kid thinking that. That story always resonated with me, and I didn't know why. Throughout my life growing up, even as a little kid, I'd always remembered it. I remembered that moment. And my old man and me I have 3 other siblings, but, I was a little bit of an accident later in life. He was a little bit older, had some more time to maybe spend rather than just busting his ass working all the time. And so we spent a lot of time together and, did playing catch in the front yard, greatest memories, so many lessons learned through that, and he brought me up to love ball and, give it your best, throw that ball as hard as you can, figurative statement there. And I always remember him a couple times saying, he was this big guy, 6'4", 270, he was like Superman. Started the South St. Paul Baseball Association back up from, they didn't have an association for a few years when my older brothers played, and he became the president and coached the Legion and stuff, and he didn't want to do it, didn't get paid for it, he did
it for the better of the community.
For the kids.
For the kids.
They didn't have a place to play, and he actually he went up in front of the city council twice on TV, to fight for a vote in order to get an ordinance for baseball fields to have lights in the city so that they could play ball longer and play for South St. Paul instead of the other city. Anyway, so baseball was a big part of our lives growing up, I guess. And I remember him always telling me, Timmy, one day you're going to be standing out on the mound in the 9th inning of the World Series. And there's going to be 2 outs, bases loaded, and a full count. And you're going to look up into the stands for me because you're going to be nervous. And I'm not going to be there. But it's okay because I'm going to be with you in your heart. And you're going to get that last strike. He would say this to me all the time before anything ever ended up happening. And I remember being 9 years old, crying, kind of stop. You don't want to cry as a little kid. And just pulling at my heartstrings, kind of. I always thought it was a literal thing. So I really, really pushed myself in baseball my whole life. And, in time, and I'll explain this a little bit, I've learned that it's more of a figurative statement, what he was saying about that. But anyway, we It was a great childhood. My best friend. And I wanted to be just like him. I still do. One day he took me to school late. I was trying to stay home, play hooky, and it was a real shitty slush snow day on December 4th, 2001. And he dropped me off at school, took off for work. He had to go meet a client out in Wilmer, Minnesota, and it was a two-way highway. Bad conditions. No one really, they don't have all the, cameras and the, satellite views at the time. The crash itself, like, no one really knows exactly how it went down, but regardless, it was a two-way highway, and he was driving a Pontiac Grand Am, so a smaller black car, and he hit head-on collision with a Bix fruit truck. It's like a big U-Haul, 55, and he hit just to the right, so he shattered his pelvis, his hip, his right leg, like almost all his ribs, had a third of his colon removed because of internal bleeding, and lung almost collapsed. His right arm was shattered. Somehow he didn't have brain damage, but it was a bad situation. Had to be cut out of the car. He was just destroyed in that thing. Somehow survived, and this is the stuff that I've been brought up with. Kind of, he's getting wheeled into Hennepin County Medical Center, Trauma 1 Center, worst the worst, and as he's getting wheeled in on a stretcher, my mom said she was just panicked, going nuts, like worst day, worst nightmare come true. And he's, clinging to the verge of life. And she runs up to a stretcher as they're running him into the center, and he grabbed her hand and looked at her and said, "Don't worry, Debbie. Everything's going to be okay." We were talking about composure earlier and what work. I couldn't agree more. I mean, that was who he was.
Keeping a level head.
And in the you're
the worst possible situation.
About to die, yeah. And looking out for his loved ones, that they feel okay. Rather than, don't worry. I mean, that's that's just one little thing, but he spent...
How old were you when he got in that accident?
I was 10.
10
years old, 2001. And I remember, I'll never forget, the next day at a hockey tournament. That was a tough one. But we tried to stay as normal, I guess, as you could throughout it, and no one knew the extent, really. I shouldn't say no one. Everyone knew he got in a major accident, but, those nights alone, like we were talking, working out, seeing who you really are. There was a lot of those type of nights not working out, just being alone and in your hell, like your worst fear. You're scared to death for months, machines keeping them alive, breathing for them, beeping all the time. It's like, it's the worst. I mean, I still can't. I have a tough time going to hospitals to this day. Like, it's not a place I'm going unless I'm fucking dying, I mean, it's just whatever trigger point, whatever, But I saw this man. He was in that Trauma 1 Center for, I think, 5 weeks straight, just like in a coma. He was in a coma on Christmas, like the kind of the worst holiday, tough time to kind of go through. But at least we were together. At least he was there. That one in particular. That's the mindset that you change it. It's a sad Christmas in the hospital, but at least he's still alive. And he makes, over the next 4 to 6 months, he was in the hospital for the next 4 for sure, in and out between 5 and 6 months, kind of moving home. Through that time, the doctors came up to him, like 9 doctors at the Hennepin County Medical Center board, top notch, and they held up x-rays in front of him and discussed it with my mom and him, and they said, "You will never walk again. You'll be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life." He wasn't paralyzed, But because of the extent of his pelvis injuries, his leg injuries, he had plates all over the Sam House. So like 275 stitches, staples through his body. Tore apart, and I watched him just never once complain. I never saw him feel bad for himself. Never showed any quit or pity for himself. He worked his ass off. I didn't even realize what I was seeing at the time. I didn't know about the x-rays as a kid, or that conversation happened. But I watched him and went with him every single day I could. I'd skip school a lot and go with him and my brother, who took on a job as his not physical therapist, but to make sure he's doing his rehab at home and shit. And we would go back and forth to HCMC, and I'd see him. He was walking with two people, one on each side, a walker and two leg braces. He couldn't feel his legs. And so he's holding himself up with his arms, essentially, in the walker, dragging his feet to start, But then a little bit later, like weeks later, then he's got just one person on the side with his walker. And then all of a sudden, he's got just the walker and people aren't touching him, holding him up. He's getting a little better. They're there just in case. A couple, a foot away from him, but now he's holding himself up. A while after that, then he gets on crutches. And again, having two people on each side, one person on each side, and then it goes to one crutch with a person on each side, so on. All of a sudden, he's using a cane with someone holding his arm up. He was never even supposed to do that, right? Well, and the pain he endured, I heard from afar sometimes when the doctors or the nurse would lock the room and move him or do whatever they had to, he'd just groan kind of, and he was a tough son of, toughest guy. You just knew he was suffering silently. Humbles you, I guess. But he fought, and he learned how to walk with just a cane. Miraculous or impossible, according to the doctors. They said you won't walk. There's no way. Well, my sister that year was a senior in high school, and she was up for the homecoming court. And this is actually, I'm sorry, not 2001. This is 2 years later. It took 2 years to get to the point with just a cane.
Yeah, he didn't.
Yeah, sorry, I fast forwarded a little bit, but.
Yeah, but I think you
explained
that.
Yeah.
Rehab obviously takes time.
Started very slow.
Right.
And she was up for homecoming queen. She's the sweetest. She's the best Coleman. The best of us. And
one sister, is it four boys?
3 boys and 1 girl.
3 boys. Yep. And your sister's your oldest?
No, my oldest brother's, how old is he now? 42? 43? I can't even believe it. And another brother is 38. My sister is, so it's 12, 10, and 6 year gap. Or 2 years. The oldest brother is 12 years older than me. My next brother is 10 years older. And my sister is 6 years. So it was a bit of an accident. But she was kind of the queen princess of the family, and a good girl. I'll get to the point of this story, I promise.
No,
and if not,
continue. Take your time.
I don't mean to make people sad. What I witnessed was incredible in my experience. So anyway, I didn't know he had these plans. He surprised me, and everybody in town knew him, right? He started ball there. He's always lived there. And Friday night football game for homecoming, September 28th. It was the day after my birthday, I want to say, or the day before. 2003. The homecoming court was walking across the field, and I remember I'm announcing my sister, and my dad was walking her with my mom on the other side, and the whole crowd, and I don't know how many people, 700 to 900 people everyone stood and, gave him a round of applause. Like, it was the greatest, most triumphant thing. I was so proud of him. And I remember he gets back, he walks her across the field, and that was very tough for him to do, especially on grass, like an unsure surface type of deal. And, it was painful for him to do. But he walked across, and, like, mainly he was in the wheelchair, but he defied the odds, He sat back down in his chair, and I was next to him. Man, he was my hero. I always wanted to be with him. I didn't care. And this part killed me. I remember him saying, "Timmy, I'm sorry if you're embarrassed by me." Dude, I almost broke down right there. Like, I could never be more proud of you, And I don't care that you can't play catch with me in the front yard anymore. I'll hurt your fucking hand anyway, old man, at this point. No, but that was painful. That showed me that inside he felt like he was embarrassed. Like, it was on it.
You were embarrassed.
Yeah, any type
of...
Like,
why would you ever be embarrassed, right?
Yeah, never could be. Any sense of humiliation or humility he didn't deserve, but he was just like a humble, good man. Anyway, I stayed for the rest of the game. He went home after that, I remember. And I come home that night, and I walk in the door, and it was like fucking wailing from hell. I've never heard him react ever to any pain, like, other than like a groan, but he was holding his stomach, screaming like, "Oh my God," just can't even put it into words. Not like him, you knew it was serious fucking pain if he was reacting that way. And he didn't want to go to the hospital, but we had to take him back, and we get him there, and they ran some tests on him looking for, I think, Crohn's disease. And in order to do it, they had to, like, not starve him, but give him very minimal amounts of food and water for a week. And, after that week, he just could not regain appetite. And I don't want to say it's their fault or anything. Like, he didn't end up having that Crohn's disease, which they were testing for, which sparked the stoppage of eating, and whatnot. And his internal pain was from the third of his colon that was removed, right? So he was having issues with that. And they never determined an exact cause or what was going on. But after that week, I remember he just lost like 75 pounds in like a month, just became so thin. Like, you see pictures now. If I look at the picture, I'm like, God, how could you not see it coming? Him, going. But at the time, it's such an unbelievable thought, like, losing him or someone it's just beyond you. So there was never, like, we didn't maybe notice that, there was nothing the doctors were doing differently, but it's like, I wish I had known them. I don't know if I wish I would have, but it would have been nice to have known, I guess, maybe that in the back of your mind, like, yeah, you might not have that much time left, rather than thinking he's going to be all right, he's going to get through this, and kind of being blindsided by it. But, it leads up to January, and it was January 5th. So the homecoming game was September, was 4 months later or whatever. And I remember I was sitting in the basement with him. He had a hospital bed down there, and I would sit on the couch and just wanted to be around him. But that day, I remember just feeling like, for no real reason, just pissed off a little and upset. Like, that environment wasn't an easy one to always be around with. You see his wheelchair and his leg braces and all this shit you don't want to see, and him laying there hurt. He asked me he goes, "Timmy, can you go get me a glass of ice water?" In like the gentlest, in pain way, like, and I remember, this is the worst. I was like, Dad, I started some bullshit fight with him. I reacted to like maybe how I was feeling. It wasn't a big task. I didn't care that he asked me for water, but I was hurting, I guess, a little bit. And I was like, I go up, I yell at him for asking me to get him a glass of water and being a spoiled little brat. And I end up, stomping up the stairs and going to get the water. And I stomp back down. I kind of slam it on his bed table. And I go back upstairs and I slam the door on him. And I didn't talk to him all the rest of that day, January 5th. And this is where God intervened, I think. A moment, one of them. I went to bed, I went to lay down, and, my mom would always come in and shut the light out and say goodnight, love ya, whatever. And that night she comes in and she goes, Timmy, your dad wants to talk to you. And I remember I turned away from her, rolled over to the wall. I go, no, I don't want to talk to him. I'll talk to him tomorrow. And she would have normally just left it at that. She just goes, no, he really wants to talk to you, and you should go talk to him. So I get up, I'm huffing and puffing, thinking he's going to, yell at me or whatever, say, why were you shit earlier? Having a negative attitude, And I go downstairs, and I see him in bed, and the Bible's sitting next to him, and this is a guy who went to confession, every other week, Catholic church every Sunday, never missed it, all through any, devout, I guess is my point, and not judgmental. Like he lived his life in order to serve God, really through everything he did. And I don't know what it was. I remember seeing that Bible sitting next to him and just thinking, he didn't just read the Bible. He went to church and did what he was supposed to do, but he's not a saint. He was, he was a Catholic who tried hard and believed in his faith. And I saw it, and I looked at him, and he had tears in his eyes as I got into the room, and he goes, Timmy, come here. And I jumped into bed with him, I remember, and I gave him the biggest hug of my life. And he hugged me back, and he said, Timmy, I love you more than anything. And I was about to cry myself, I'm like, Dad, I love you more than anything. You're my best friend. And he was, okay, good night. And instead of a fight, that was the last words that I got to say to my father. He passed away at about 3-4 a.m. that morning. And by all means, if it had been up to me, my last words with him and experience with him would have been what I told you, me being a little shit brat, complaining about going upstairs to get him a glass of ice water. I don't know what it was, but my mom has been angelic in moments around this time. And, that night we went to bed. I went to bed after saying, I love you. And she bursts upstairs, and me and all my brothers, my sister was at my grandma's that night. But my brothers and I, we ran into each other. She was like, I thought she couldn't breathe. That's the best way, panicking, and I thought she couldn't breathe. I don't know if she could. But she ran us downstairs. We were trying to get her water in the kitchen on the middle level, and she went back down, and he was gone down there. And it's just, fuck, man. You see your hero, Superman's laying there dead, and 12 years old, George was in college, Joe was just starting college, Mary's in high school, and I remember Mary came home from the grandma's, and man, all four of us just hugged each other. Cried and hugged, and as tough of a moment that was, that brought us so close together. My siblings are my best friends. To this day, I would pick hanging out with all of them over anything. And I mean, that in itself, you learn to recognize these little gifts. Terry, I lost my best friend, right? And it sucks. I miss him, but I know I'm getting off track. I'll get back. I wake up. I find him. We find him, he's gone downstairs in his bed, and you go through all the processes. The coroner comes and, you're saying prayers and all, it's the worst. But I remember they took his body to the funeral home or whatnot, and so he was gone, and that night, that day was just like an eternity. Terrible. I went to bed that night and so sad and destroyed, kind of like that's like, where do you go from here? Kind of like everything, your fucking whole life feels like it's over because you lose someone you love so much. So parents are important. But I wake up, or I go to sleep that night, and I felt like I woke up, and I could see everything in my room. I was still laying in my bed, and I was laying on my left side, facing my room, and I could see my desk and my TV, like it was kind of looking from this way to left to right, and I felt like I was just groggy, like, kind of like that half awake, half asleep state, if you've ever been in kind of. So I was conscious, but I couldn't really, move. And I could just see everything as it was in my room. And I look at the end of my bed, and I feel on my leg, like a rubbing on my shin, kind of like to gently wake someone up. And I see my dad sitting at the end of my bed, in his black leather coat and his jeans and his hair done like he'd do it every day for work before the car accident. And he's just got a little smirk on his face. And he's looking down. And I sit up quick. And I remember I had every thought, and it felt like in a second, I had every thought and question, everything I wanted to say to him or ask in my whole life up to then and thereafter. It was like overwhelming feeling in whatever state, this dream I was having. And I remember I just sat up, and I didn't choose this, but all that came out was, "Dad, have you seen Jesus yet?" And he looked at me and he laughed, and he looked back at me and he goes, "Oh yeah, I've seen him a couple times now. And I gotta go. I love you." And he walked out of my bedroom, and as he opened the bedroom door, I woke up, and it was like 9 a.m. Perfect, beautiful, sunny winter day. Snow was sparkling. Not a cloud in the sky. And we had a family friend who was very religious. She's like a saint. She only shows up every now and then, too. She lives over in Spain, actually, but for some reason, I always thought she was an angel. That morning, she's the first person who shows up at the door, very devout Catholic, very faithful, good woman, and she used to babysit us. But she had tears running down her face. I'll never forget this. And biggest smile on her face. She goes, "He's in heaven." In those little moments you see, it was a perfect example. He suffered here so much pain, so much discomfort, and the tears that I felt and the sadness I feel is me being, selfish. I want him back, right? I want him back. But I know he told me. I mean, this took me 10 years to, my whole life. I still think about it, but 10 years really to understand. But he came to me and told me in less words, "It's going to be okay. I'm okay. There's peace. I'm with Jesus. Believe it. Here's your hint." Okay. But as a kid, I was left with am I nuts? I didn't tell anybody about it. It was like, dude, it's just a dream, but I know what I saw. It wasn't just a dream. It was so real. And I can't give that to anyone or show them. Or no one's going to know what I mean. And I kind of struggled with this in turn. Like, that was my faith. I had to find it. I didn't find it in church. It was like a hint. It kind of kept me going after God. And I had all these grand plans for life. And, I find myself, I remember another moment to change. 9 years later, after kind of, pursuing what you have to in life. And I'm in college at St. Thomas, a third-time transfer. And I needed to pick a class. And I kind of randomly put an X on a paper. It happened to be this class. The Search for Happiness was what it was called. And I had this amazing teacher. He said two things that I couldn't understand. Like, I usually grasped the concept of Christianity, all right? I went to Catholic school and was always taught about, I'm not saying I know it all, but, like, I've heard the stories, kind of, whatnot. But he said two things that I had never heard. He said, God is so good that he can make good even out of evil or bad. And I was not okay with it. I was like, what? Like, God, the devil. I've always been told there's good and there's bad, and God's good, and how can you make good out of bad? Evil, whatever. It just didn't stick with me for some reason. And then he told us about another saint. Saint Therese, I think, of Lisieux. The little flower is what she was called. And he said that Therese came from this very rich family back in the 1700s, and she had just grown up in wealth and prosperity, perfect life, all the best of everything. And when she was a little girl, she decided, like 16 or something, real young. She was called a little flower because I think she died real young, but she became a nun, and her whole family was trying to stop her. Like, what are you doing? You're going to become a nun? You can live and have these balls and everything. You can have all the dreams in this world. And she stayed true. She wrote down, she has a book, I believe, but this was a compilation of her stories. She said she had visions of Jesus Christ. And in those visions, he showed her, the first one was, here's what you could have. And he showed her a party with people in the richest rags and the, best food on earth and sexy people, good look, everything you could want. And then he said, okay, or you could choose this, and here's what I'll give you. And she said that he showed her heaven. And in her description of it, she described that there's 7 levels of heaven. 7th heaven. It's not just a TV show, I guess. I learned this. This is like theological shit. Pardon my French. But as your soul became more pure, this is Catholic thinking a little bit, okay? So bear with me. You got closer to God. God is in the highest level of heaven. And over time, in God's time, this ain't like years, I don't know how God's time works. You get closer to him, more pure. Your soul is purified. And I had trouble. I was like, what? Seems like a little, how does she know? Is this ridiculous, kind of? And I finished the class, and about a week later, I had a dream about my dad. I hadn't had one since the night he died. And this time, I was driving in my Buick, and we were going up north. We would take road trips growing up. Sentimental thing, memory, I guess. But as we're driving between the pine trees, he's like 30 years old. I didn't know him when he was 30, but that was like, he was young and he was thin and he was wearing like a Easter egg yellow collared t-shirt and like gunned out and jeans that was tucked in with a brown belt. And and his hair was done like he'd always done it, and he is rocking back and forth in his chair, crying, laughing. Not like like cannot stop laughing, hardest, best laughs. And I'm sitting there, and I don't know why. Like, this is my dream. I wake up, and I'm driving behind the wheel, and he's to the right of me, roaring in laughter, and he's young. And my arm, I remember, was on the armrest, and I felt like I didn't see anything. It was like something was coming out of him. I felt on my arm like an aura or an energy. Heaven? It was like coming out of him. And I remember in this moment, I was like paralyzed by this sense of like the best feeling for just a second. And then again, like in the first dream, I had all the thoughts run through my head. I recognized like, oh my God, this is my dad. Like I was, what I want, how are you here? What do I say? But this is all in like a split second. I remember rushing through your head, and I utter, I don't say, I didn't choose it again. I said, Dad, what's it like dying? Just like that was the most important thing I could ask, just like the first one. And he fights through his laughter, and he kind of like calms himself down, but he's still smiling, and he's like, oh, well, Timmy, when I first died and I came and visited you, I was only in the beginning stages of heaven. I could see the light and hear the music, and I woke up. He was going to keep going. But I woke up when I had just enough, I guess, hope, belief in my heart. Now he's telling me that he's in heaven. He's heard the music. He's telling me it's there. This is the guy, I know I was saying for everyone, but he brought me up, taught me no matter what God puts in your life, no matter what, you never lose your faith in him. Like Abraham, you do anything he asks. You fight to be his soldier, the best man that you can be. And you love him and you honor him and you do everything in your life for him. Because you didn't choose to be here on your own. He gave it to you. And we'll all go back to him, hopefully. But we have to earn that seventh heaven. And I think that in this life, you can maybe ensure a quicker trip by being a better person, suffering here silently, enduring and being a good I don't want to say example, a positive light in this world in everything that you do or try to be. And I ain't all the time, I ain't at all. But I believe from my experiences that there is something more. Something way beyond this, way beyond my comprehension. I can't explain what I saw. It was so vivid. It was like me and you here, but me just being real tired. I saw details. It's just, I didn't see heaven. I saw my dad, who I believe in, who never fucking ever has let me or anyone down that I know in my, his funeral, there was 800 people there. It was just so many people. He did things for behind the scenes. And I guess what I learned from him and from his passing and telling me, I guess, showing me that there's something more is that's why you give your best. You got to earn paradise. You got to earn your peace. And I do everything as best that I can. For the guy upstairs, I think he's behind it all. God is here, and I think if we all could try to recognize him, he's all around us. I remember going back, this is in the midst of, right after my old man died. It was about a week. You had to go back to school now. You got to just pick up and go back to normal life, act like, whatever, nothing happened. And, my mom's a tough lady too. I don't know how she took on 2 jobs of parenting, But I remember her sitting me down and I was just so, the emotions you go through is like a fucking roller coaster. So pissed, so sad, guilty, happy that he's not in pain because I believe he's in heaven, just everything, up and down kind of, especially down. And I remember feeling real fucking hopeless, like, in my life up to that point. I thought this was my, I remember falling to my knees and looking at, shaking my fist at the ceiling and saying to God, how could you do this? Like, why would you ever do this to me? This is the worst fucking thing that you could have ever done. Ever. You killed my whole heart. But in that moment, what did I remember? That story you told me about Abraham. Whatever is God's will is meant to be. And we must carry on, carry our cross, and get up when we fall. And try to lead everybody else around us in that same direction. Not by talking and doing, but like by doing the best that we can. Setting the tone, doing it, like, I forget it all the time. I sometimes, I get pretty worldly sometimes, selfish and lazy. But, like, you gotta remember that there's so many people who have it so much worse, suffering every day silently. And, why not take this moment that you get to go to your job that pays you this amount of money, that, be able to live in a decent place, and you get to go to your ball game, even if it's across town. It's kind of a pain in the ass to get to and you're a little tired. You can choose your attitude, the way you're going to look at it. And it's the same. You got to look for God. Look for the positive. All the bullshit's all around. But if you look and you live your best, you give it your all, and you love the people around you, you give them your all, I think that's what life's all about. I do. That's in everything, man. I may not be in the major league standing on the mound in the 9th inning, but I know that when the moment comes and I got to step up, and whatever my big moment is in my World Series, well, he gave me a pretty good lesson there, and I'm going to try and do that. He'll be with me in my heart, I know it, and one day, if I can do good enough, I'll see him again. I just wish everybody could know that as much as I believe it. And I'm not special. I don't deserve a second thought, but I'm just a normal fucking bum who has tried to believe in God, tried to, I fail a lot. I've tried to keep him a daily part of my life, and, he's taking pretty good care of me, and I think if you can recognize a little more, just you and me talking right now, man, I fucking love hanging out with you. This is like, putting us together good, every good thing comes from him. And I think if we can all just recognize that, humble ourselves a little bit to realize, I couldn't do any of this without him letting me, waking me up today or giving me the strength to walk or drive wherever, to play baseball. Like I miss my old man every day. I could be sad. I remember my mom saying, Timmy, you could go through your life being sad and feeling like the world owes you something and having a lot of hate and resentment in your heart. Or you could try and be who your dad would want you to be and be the best person that you can be every day and work as hard as you can and make him proud, because now he's watching you every moment. I believe in that, and that's all I try and do. I ain't much, man, but I hope I hope I can have a couple glasses of wine up in heaven with God one day and a couple beers with my old man, because I never got to. But death is not the end. And the devil's going to try and scare everybody into thinking it is and worrying about a lot of petty stuff if you let him, and getting caught up in this world. He's right in front of you. He's pride. It's the devil's favorite sin. But if you look past, if you can recognize that, you can see God everywhere. Every leaf, every different blade of grass, all around us, all the time, all the beauty of this world. He gave it to us, and I mean, man, I'm not the greatest person on it by any means, but I try not to squander what I have. You know, like the gifts that he's given us, I try to take whatever I got, and here's my best, man. This is all I got, and you know, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but if you keep carrying your cross, you keep climbing the hill, you keep fighting to get over that hump, that's when you're going to win. It's all in the battle. I don't know. I got a little long-winded there.
Honestly, like, I don't even know a follow-up, because that was probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard.
Thanks, buddy. It's not me. It's a gift from God in my life.
How have you ever said that, like, out loud, from beginning to end? Because that was
probably
amazing. Like, that was just spewing out of you.
Yeah, I mean, not really. You know, I don't really talk about it unless asked, unless in private to my family or something. You know, you have your family conversations and stuff, but no, I don't. You know, I'm open about it. I'm sometimes apprehensive of mentioning it because I don't want, and I never, I don't think anyone would, but like, as a kid especially, I never wanted anybody to like feel bad for me. This is my cards, these are the cards that were drawn, and it sucks, but I'll share it if someone asks. To me, there's a lesson behind it more than just a story, and it's been life-changing for me. Like I say, I'm a sinner like everyone. But I have a lot of hope in my heart, which is one thing that maybe took place as some of the hurt. I have a lot of hope for what might be to come. And, I'd rather go through this life believing that there is a God and finding out that there isn't, rather than not believing and finding out that there is.
You can't justify it more than that.
Yeah, I just think if we could...
You're just saying it doesn't hurt.
Yeah. It
doesn't hurt to believe.
There's something more.
It doesn't hurt to believe in something.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be afraid of it.
No. You gotta open your eyes to it a little bit. You gotta fight for it. You gotta see that there's something more.
You gotta think, why are we here? Like,
you think it's to get elected and votes?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah,
what are we doing here?
Exactly. I think
spread the love.
Just give it your all.
Give it your all.
Give it your all for as long as you can, and try and love the people around you and tell them often that you love them. Be it friends, family, anyone you care for. Just you might not see them again. Life is brutal like that. But I know, it's hard, I'm one person with my one story that is my, it's my gift from God experience, but I wish if there was one thing I wish I could do is I wish I could kind of give others I believe it like fact in my heart. I wish everybody could have hope and know that even if you fail, you never fail if you try as hard as you can. The failure is not trying, and not giving it your best shot in this life because it's short.
I'm thinking about Thanksgiving coming up, right, on Thursday.
Yeah.
And you're going to see your whole family and, all the people that you love. And it's like, let's celebrate love. Let's not celebrate.
Exactly. Be happy.
Right.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Tell each other, I love you, I'll see you next time. And we got to work to stay together, man, because I blame it, but like, people, we got to stay with our people, we got to be together and be strength in numbers, man. Like, this pandemic was tough. It was tough for me. I know it was tough for everybody else. We're social beings and we're all a part of God. We're all made in His image. I believe that, and I think that it's important for us to look out for each other and to help each other go down the right paths, not the bad ones. I got some bad habits and stuff. I try not to, I chew and stuff and drink some beers. And hey, if you want to have a beer with me, that's awesome. If you want to have your own chew, that's great, but I don't want to give you one. You know what I mean? But no, I just think you got one shot. God wants you to be happy and to live your life to the best of your ability. Use the gifts that you have for good. And, I try to do that, and I know that you do. Like the Angels, love the Angels, the best people I've ever come to meet in the last, fuck, man.
Doesn't sound like it's a coincidence that you play for the Angels.
Oh, man, you guys are angels to me. In my life, I mean that, and I say it to my girl, Kristen, all the time. I tell you, I have an upbringing, baseball's my escape. I love the game. It's relatable to me. And you guys love that game just like I do, and you all play. Corral's my angel. He was the hero I looked up to growing up, watching him play with my brother, and again, another friendship. The good ones will always be there. Even I didn't see him for 5 years. I called him up, and he got me right on the team. And I fucking have never been a part of a better team. I mean that genuinely. That's just, all of it. The job, it's all connected, and I think 100% you can see it. And once we start recognizing, maybe giving glory to God and putting our lives into His hands, trusting, just saying maybe a prayer in the morning, I got to work on this too. Saying, God, I don't know what you want from me today. I don't know what the will is for my day, but just please let it be in line with yours and guide my path so that I take the right direction and bring positivity and goodness into this world as best I can. I don't know. Enjoy life and tell the people that you care about that you love them. Often.
I hear that train coming, it's rolling round the bend. I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when, and I'm stuck in Folsom Prison. Time keeps dragging on, but that train keeps a rolling on down to San Antone. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't never play with guns. Well, I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle blowing, I hang my head and cry. folks eating in the fancy dining car, probably drinking coffee and smoking big cigars. Well, I know I had it coming. I know I can't be free, but those people keep moving, and that's what tortures me. Woo. If they freed me from this prison, if that railroad train was mine, you can bet I'd move it over a little farther down the line. Far from Folsom Prison, that's where I don't want to stay. And I'd let that lonesome whistle blow my blues